Today on Upfront, yet another stunning reversal for voter ID in Wisconsin. The U.S. Supreme Court puts it on hold. Next, Senate Majority Leader Scott Fitzgerald on the impact he thinks this will have on the election and whether there's anything lawmakers can do to make voter ID happen before November 4th. Then, same-sex marriage is legal again in Wisconsin. Democratic Congressman Mark Pocan on whether this issue is really over. And the candidates for governor meet in their first debate. We'll unspin the spin on the candidates' performances and reveal the line we might end up seeing in a TV ad.
Covering the issues important to Wisconsin. This is Up Front with Mike Goucher.
Hello again, everyone, and welcome to Up Front. Another wild week in Wisconsin politics, this time courtesy of the U.S. Supreme Court. Earlier in the week, the court refused to hear appeals of lower court decisions, striking down same-sex marriage bans in Wisconsin and 4 other states. That essentially made same-sex marriage legal in Wisconsin. And then later in the week, in a 6-3 decision, the court blocked the state from implementing its photo ID requirement for the November election. So, what will be the impact of these decisions? We're joined now by Senate Majority Leader Republican Scott Fitzgerald. Senator Fitzgerald, good to have you on the program.
Good to be with you again.
Well, let's talk about what happened late in the week, the voter ID ruling, first of all. What was your reaction to it? Is there anything that could be done between now and Election Day that would still have this requirement in effect?
I don't know that there's anything practical that could be accomplished. So I guess what I'm preparing for is the clerks of the state are probably going to have a new conversation about photo ID, but it appears that because of the U.S. Supreme Court ruling, it's not going to be in place for the November elections at this point.
What's your reaction to the decision?
I'm disappointed. This is not clearly a ruling on whether or not the law in Wisconsin is constitutional. And what the court said was, there's going to be an appeal process, so they have 90 days in which to do that. So I'm sure that both sides will once again kind of make a run at it, and we'll see what happens. But, for right now, I think we find ourselves in a situation where it's not going to be in place for November.
How does not having a photo ID requirement, in your opinion, affect the November election?
I think you'll see those incidents pop up statewide after November elections in which there were probably multiple votes cast by certain individuals who simply don't have the best interest of elections in mind. And
do you think there are multiple instances of that?
Yeah,
I think
there will be.
There's enough evidence to support that?
Yeah, it's interesting. The same day the Journal-Sentinel was editorializing we didn't need a photo ID bill, there was an article 2 pages before that that said there was a Republican advocate that voted multiple times in Wisconsin. Those are the types of things I think that are just irritating because people do take the time to actually go and vote, and then their vote is canceled out. And that's really what our message has been about that. Let's have, as best as we can, fairly administered elections that are legit. That's what we're asking for.
The other big Supreme Court decision in the past week essentially allows the state to move forward with same-sex marriages.
Right.
You were one of the lead sponsors of the 2006 move to ban same-sex marriage in Wisconsin. Give me your sense of whether or not you feel Republicans, including the governor, are too quickly moving on from this issue. Do you think there still should be a discussion about gay marriage, same-sex marriage in the state?
I think there will be. I think that...
you don't think that discussion's over, as the
No,
governor said?
now it's in 29 states through various different moves in the judicial branch. They still haven't, once again, definitively said that absolutely this is the law of the land. Until all 50 states are affected in the same way, I think you're going to see this discussion continue. But for all practical matters right now in Wisconsin, it appears that, the clerks can start to marry same-sex couples. For me, that's a disappointment, I think, when you had the residents of the state not only, vote in favor of the constitutional amendment, but, something that was ratified by 2 legislatures. So it makes you wonder about the power of the judicial branch and whether or not there's an overreach going on.
Let's talk about the Government Accountability Board, because your counterpart in the Assembly, Robin Vos, had some strong words last week about the GAB Director, Kevin Kennedy. He said he was an embarrassment. He's got to go. He will go in the next legislative session. Here's what Robin Vos said. He said, "I promise you that 2 years from now, the GAB will not be in the current format. It is dysfunctional, it is unresponsive, and totally undemocratic." So has Kevin Kennedy got to go? Does the GAB have to go?
Although I've had certainly my run-ins with Kevin Kennedy, I don't want to lose focus on what the real issue is. And I think it's the model that was originally put together by the legislature, in which we thought there would be an independent voice that would actually take serious kind of the concerns that come forward from county clerks, from the legislature, from anybody involved in elections. And it's just not functioning. It's just not working. So I think with a legislative audit that's underway, and we should have the results of that in November, and with some of the ideas and concepts that are being floated already in the legislature about what types of changes we can make to the GAB, I do expect that we will take some type of action next year with a Republican legislature and a Republican governor.
Well, give us an idea of what it might look like in the future. Would elections be administered by a partisan agency? Would it be, for example, under the auspices of the Secretary of State?
I've been around long enough to know that the previous elections board, although it was partisan, and many of their decisions kind of, were grounded in the idea that, they would split on many different issues when they would consider things. If there was something that really needed to be addressed, the old elections board could function. I'm not opposed to taking a look at that again and seeing if we can't somehow strike some balance that also includes the other branches of government. But what we have right now is, unfortunately, kind of a rubber stamp that often aligns itself with staff recommendations, and that's unacceptable.
Give us your sense of how the Senate will look after the November election. You guys have the majority right now. Will you grow the majority, in your opinion?
Yeah, I feel really good about where we're at right now in the targeted seats that we've been working on and where we recruited candidates. They seem to be doing very well, been able to deliver the message that we've been good stewards of the state's finances. And because of that, feel really good that not only we're coming back with the majority, but hopefully get to 19, and if it's a 2010 landslide for Republicans, maybe get to 20 seats.
So you see 1914 as being very doable, but
Absolutely.
Given some little momentum at the end, could be greater than that?
Yeah, I mean, we have other candidates that are well positioned, more difficult districts as far as the numbers go, but really articulate candidates that can deliver the message.
So you're very optimistic.
I am.
And you think this may feel a little bit like 2010?
It's starting to move in that direction. I mean, not only do I feel that way, but we're seeing that in some of the polling.
Scott Fitzgerald is the Senate Majority Leader. We appreciate your time. Thanks very much for being with us.
Thank you. Good to be with you.
Next, another take on the same-sex marriage decision. Democratic Congressman Mark Pocan on why he thinks the fight really is over in Wisconsin. And later, Governor Walker and Mary Burke meet in their first debate. How did they do? That's when Up Front continues.
Up Front with Mike Goucher, brought to you by the American Transmission Company and the Wisconsin Corn Growers Association.